Most people see greed as a simple desire for more, but for Arthur, it's a strategy for survival. Behind the high-end suit and the cold calculations, there is a mind that never feels safe. To be a chronically greedy person is to live in a permanent state of perceived scarcity. It is a psychology of the void, where no amount of accumulation is ever enough to fill the hole. Today, we decode the grip of greed and the hidden fear that drives the need for more. We explore why Arthur's brain is locked in a loop of acquisition, even when his needs are met. Understanding this reveals the internal poverty that often hides behind external wealth. First, let's look at the neurobiology of the scarcity mindset, the brain in survival mode. Years of insecurity have conditioned Arthur's brain to prioritize possession over experience. He doesn't just buy things, he captures them to ensure they cannot be taken away. His brain treats every dollar as a shield against a future catastrophe that never actually arrives. This is anticipatory anxiety, the fear that the world is a zero-sum game where resources are finite. But this neural focus comes with a shadow, the inability to experience satiety or enoughness. Arthur doesn't feel the joy of what he has, he only feels the panic of what he might lose. The Midas curse is the inability to touch anything without calculating its resale value. Now let's look at the second pillar, the void of early deficit, and the emotional root. For Arthur, greed isn't about the money. It's about a deep, ancient feeling of being unprotected. Often this starts in a childhood where resources, or love, were inconsistent or conditional. He learned early that things are more reliable than people, and that more equals safety. This is compensatory accumulation, trying to solve an emotional problem with a financial solution. To cope, he develops a transactional identity, where his value is tied directly to his net worth. But the more he builds his fortress of wealth, the more isolated he becomes within its walls. This is the hoarder's paradox. The more you hold, the less room you have for anyone else. Then there is the anxiety of comparison, the need to have more than the person next to him. For Arthur, wealth is relative. He doesn't want to be rich, he wants to be richer. This creates a hedonic treadmill that moves faster every time he achieves a new goal. He lives with a status vigilance, constantly measuring his position against his peers. Now, let's look at the third layer, the death of empathy and the social cost of greed. Greed requires a psychological detuning of the ability to feel the needs of others. Arthur begins to see people as variables in his equation of gain rather than human beings. This objectification allows him to take more than his share without feeling the weight of guilt. He speaks a language of leverage and margins that leaves no room for genuine connection. Now, let's explore the physicality of greed, the tension of the grip. Arthur's body is a biological manifestation of holding on. His shoulders are tight, his breath is shallow. He lives in a state of resource guarding, even when there is no visible threat in the room. He has a loss aversion so intense that the pain of losing $10 outweighs the joy of winning $100. This creates a hyper-awareness of every minor expense, turning life into a series of micro-stresses. Now, let's explore the concept of the infinity trap and the logic of the hoard. Arthur believes that there is a number that will finally make him feel relaxed and secure, but infinity has no end, and his target moves every time he gets close to the finish line. He lives in a dual reality, the fortress he is building, and the trench he feels he is in. The struggle of his life is trying to buy a feeling of peace that isn't for sale. This is the accumulator's burden, the weight of maintaining a life that you cannot actually enjoy. If he were ever to stop and be still, he would have to face the void he is running from. But how does this affect his real life outside of the bank account and the stock market? Arthur often finds normal generosity to be confusing, suspicious, or even dangerous. He seeks the catch in every gift and the angle in every act of kindness. He is an emotional auditor, always checking the balance sheet of his relationships. This brings us to the dopamine of the deal, the short-lived high of the new acquisition. For a few minutes after a big win, the void disappears and Arthur feels full. This is the addiction of more, a chemical hit that provides a temporary mask for his fear. For those few minutes, the years of stress and the loss of his relationships seem justified. He is no longer Arthur. He is a conqueror, a master of the material world. But like any drug, the effect fades and the hunger returns, sharper and more painful than before. Now, let's look at the social psychology of the miser and the cost of the closed hand. In his quest to lose nothing, Arthur loses the very thing that makes life worth living: intimacy. You cannot hold someone's hand if your own fist is tightly clenched around your gold. This is the great trade, exchanging the warmth of a community for the coldness of a vault. It is a high-level survival strategy that eventually starves the person it was meant to protect. But what happens when the game slows down and Arthur faces the reality of his own mortality? Many greedy people experience a legacy crisis, the realization that you can't take the fortress with you. The nervous system struggles to understand a world where accumulation is no longer the goal. They feel a value vacuum, a sense of profound insignificance despite their massive net worth. Now we arrive at the honest conclusion: you don't have to be a millionaire to learn from Arthur. You just have to be a person who sometimes confuses having with being. Real security is not a grand bank balance. It is the quality of your connections and your character. It is the ability to look at the world and know that you have enough, regardless of the number. You are the steward of your own life, and your wealth is the peace you carry within. Stop seeking the safety of more and start practicing the freedom of enough. The enoughness you seek is a state of mind, not a destination on a financial report. Don't judge the greed. Understand the fear that created it, and choose a different path for yourself. Arthur is not a villain by choice. He is a man who forgot how to trust the world. Let his story remind you that an open hand is the only one that can truly receive. I'm Leo, and I hope this note helps you find the abundance that doesn't require a vault. Respect the flow, understand the fear, and never let your possessions own you. Until the next note, stay generous, stay grounded, and trust the enoughness within you. The void is not filled by adding, it is healed by letting go.